Well, it's a great pleasure and honor to have President Trump with us. Boy, that was some interview you did, President Trump, on Sunday. The libs went nuts, but it burned up the airwaves.
Well, it did. If you're talking about your show, which I assume you were, because that was on Sunday night, we had a great time, and I just noticed something very special. Your show was number one. It was the number one show. And so we're proud of you, Mark. You do a great job. It was a great interview. Thank you.
The guest didn't hurt. And we're doing the the second half this coming Sunday, which is as compelling as the first half, as far as I'm concerned.
I love that. Well, I love being with you, and it was really a good interview. And congratulations on the ratings, because ultimately, if you don't get the ratings, you're gone, right? If you don't get the ratings. So you were the number one show. I just saw that. Fantastic.
Well, no comment, but sometimes when you do, you're gone too, Mr. President. But anyway,
I didn't want to say that.
No,
I didn't want to say that.
Your book is very compelling because it has, and the book is called Letters to Trump, and it has letters from all sorts of people. The American people would know of the left, the right, the center, and so forth. You know an awful lot of people. They're almost all very kind love letters. And many of these people, since you decided to get into politics, turned on you and have attacked you. What do you make of that?
Well, I think they probably voted for me because they like paying low taxes and they like having a secure border and they like having a good military and lots of other things. I often say the people living in Beverly Hills and Palos Verdes in California, wealthy areas, Bel Air, I hear I did very well with the vote, even though when they walk out, they'll say, no, I voted for Biden. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So some turned and some actually became very strong. But I put a lot of the turns on because in many cases the turns, it's more interesting when you see somebody turn from being totally in love and then all of a sudden you announce that you're running for president and they don't love you so much anymore.
Now, Joe Biden announced and did a video and is attacking.
Video.
Yeah. Gee, you've been doing videos now for months, haven't you?
Yeah,
Good
I do videos, but when you're announcing for president, you don't do it through a video. It's crazy.
Right.
You did. Somebody said 7 takes. When you're announcing for president, you don't do a video. You do a statement. You go out and you just announce that you're running, and you say a few words, and you go back and you do what you're doing, but you don't do it through a video. No, that's terrible.
Now, Chuck Grassley was not happy with the interview. He said, Levin and these others, they need to ask Trump what he's going to do. You put out statements, you put out video, you make statements constantly about what you're going to do on every conceivable subject, do you not?
I really do, and I talk about the future very much, but I also talk about the past. You have to learn from the past. I mean, voting and all the things that took place, you have to learn so you can correct them for the next one. You can't let that happen again. And so I would say that, I'm really thinking about the future at this point more. But you have to learn from the past. That's what history is all about. And you can't let it happen again. And we'll never let that happen again. That was a confluence of a lot of different things going on, including COVID. But you can never let that happen again. No, I think we're in good shape. We're very strong in the polls against Biden and against the Republicans. All of the Republicans are way, way, way behind.
Let me ask you this. In the book, you talk about 2 Kennedys, Ted and John Jr.
Right.
And they were both very friendly with you. Ted was very friendly with you. You had a good relationship with John Jr., and you said John Jr. could have been president of the United States, no?
That's right. I think that's what he was aiming at. He was going to run for the Senate, and he was going to get out. He had a magazine, George, and it was for a period of time, and it was fine. He actually put me on the cover. But he was a great guy. He was a very handsome person, very handsome man. I think he would have been incredible, actually. I think he would have been I think he would have run for the Senate. He would have easily won, and then probably he would have run for president at some point. And, I knew him and I knew his wife. They used to fight like cats and dogs, but they loved each other, so you never know. They had a little they had a very volatile relationship, let's say, but they ultimately, it worked somehow. And I'd watch things that say that's an interesting relationship, but it seemed to work. And it was a horrible thing when they went on that plane and they went into that New England fog, smog, whatever you want to call it. It's the thickest anywhere in the world. I don't know if people know that, but if you don't know how to fly with instruments, or if you're just okay at it, you're in big trouble when you get in that. And they got caught going up to Massachusetts, and they didn't take the route along the coast. You take the route along the coast, and then you make a small right, as opposed to making a big right, and in theory saving time. And he wasn't expert at instruments, and the plane they got lost in the fog. Very sad, actually. Very sad. He really did have a tremendous future. His mother wanted him very much to go into politics, which is amazing. And I think John really wanted to be an actor. And he had the look, I can tell you. But I think John would have preferred being an actor. But he was going to run, in my opinion, I mean, it's what he said to me, he was going to run for office, and he would have been a senator, and he would have been maybe a president.
One of your closest friends when you were president was the president of Japan, Abe. And you got very close to him, and he was close to you, and then he was assassinated. Right. That must have been a shock. This is in the book as well.
Right. Oh, he was fantastic. He was a fantastic man, loved his country. I'd ask him all sorts of questions about that culture. It's an amazing culture, the Japanese culture, as you know. And I'd ask him about the kamikaze pilots. His father was a certified kamikaze pilot, never got to fly. And he was always saddened by the fact it was sort of an incredible conversation. And I said, because the kamikaze thing, it's like
right.
Amazing.
Suicide.
Somebody could do that. Yeah, it was suicide, basically. And I said, were they drunk or in drugs? He said the only drug they had was love for their country. That was the only drug. I said, well, his father was always very devastated by the fact he never got to fly. He was 2 weeks out. The war ended 2 weeks before he was going to go out. Can you believe that? That's really something. But I'll never forget his answer. No, it was love of their country. And you wonder how many Americans would be doing that, right? It's very hard to understand. But the culture is an amazing culture, and he was an amazing man. He was a very loved guy. He actually left early because he wasn't well. He had a problem, and I think he cleared up the problem. And he would have run again, and he would have been prime minister. I think he would have won again. I think he would have very easily won. And he was very popular, and he had a maniac. He was assassinated by a maniac. Probably the only gun in Japan. They don't allow guns. It's it's very tough. But this guy made a gun in his basement, a very crude gun, but unfortunately it worked, and he's gone. But he was a great man and a great leader.
On the show, by the way, the book is Letters to Trump. You can get it at 45books.com or, of course, Amazon.com, where it's number one. Mr. President, we talked about Arnold Palmer on the TV show, but you were also friends with a lot of other golfers like Jack Nicklaus, no?
Right.
And he wrote you a very nice letter as well.
Jack Nicklaus, sure, Gary Player. These are great champions. And Jack was extraordinary. He reacted well under pressure. Some people do and some people don't. The differences with golf and some other sports, most other sports, I guess, under certain circumstances, you either react well under pressure or find a new way to make a living, right? Mm-hmm. And Jack probably reacted better under pressure than anybody. He was an amazing champion, and he would play better when there was great pressure. 99% of the players play much worse. And he'd hit the great shots or the great putts when he was needing it to win the Masters, and other people would not be able to do that. And he was just a great champion. I think you're probably born with that, perhaps. I don't know if you develop it, really. It's like that in life. The only difference is sports. It's sort of a microcosm of life. And you see it more plainly, it's easier. Hey, the putt goes in or the ball goes over the fence or whatever it might be. But Jack is a great champion with an unbelievable record, and an unbelievable record when he had to play well. And most people can't say that.
You got along quite well with Barbara Walters. She considered you one of the most important public figures out there when she would do her shows and so forth. And she created the show The View, where you have all these women on there who are constantly attacking you and so forth.
Yeah.
But you got along with her quite well, no?
I got along with all of them. You know, I got along with Whoopi great. She asked me if I'd do a movie. She made a movie about, I don't know, I remember basketball. And she said, would you do a cameo? I got along with Joy. Joy loved Trump. She said, please do the show. I got along with the ones that, you know, I knew. I got along with them great. And now, I don't know if they hate me, but I guess they hate me. I guess I'm also good for their ratings. But the fact is that I got along with them. I mean, I literally did a cameo for Whoopi Goldberg in a movie that she made, and got along with them. And then when I ran for office, wasn't even policy. It was just like when I ran for office, did a great job. Our country was fantastic. Just prior to COVID coming in, in the history of our country, we never had a country doing so well. And everybody was coming together. But we had the greatest economy in history. Everybody was working, whether you had degrees or no good degrees. If you just were in this country, Hispanic, Asian Americans, think of it, Asian Americans, just everybody, African Americans had the greatest period of time they've ever had economically. There's never been a period of time like that. For the African Americans, for the Asian Americans, for the Hispanics, it was an amazing time. There's never been a time in the history of our country. Then we got hit with this horrible gift from China, and then we got our way out of it. By the time I left, so we had 2.5 unbelievable years. By the time I left, the stock market was higher than it was before COVID came in. It was really amazing, actually. But that was a time, especially that time prior to COVID, was a time the likes of which our country has never had. We were leapfrogging China. China was going to take, always for many years, as you know, they said 2018, 2019, China would become the biggest economy. They were so far behind us that it was incredible. Plus, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in the form of tariffs and taxes. No other president took in 10 cents, Mark. Not even nothing. They ripped us off left and right. And I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I made an incredible trade deal with China for our farmers and manufacturers. And then when COVID came in, I didn't even talk about it. But I made the USMCA, that's Mexico, Canada. We just, we did a great deal. We did a lot of great deals. We renegotiated the deal with South Korea, which was terrible. We renegotiated the deal with Abe, our great Abe. He was, we made a deal where it was horrible. They didn't have any of our cars. They didn't have any of our product. They wouldn't take anything, and yet we sold hundreds of billions of dollars worth of their cars. I said, it's not fair. We can't do it. And I renegotiated the whole deal. It was great for us. Good for them, but great for us. It was not sustainable how bad the deals were. Nobody did anything about it. And I got them all done. We made great trade deals. That's why we did so well.
And then you watch what Joe Biden is doing to the country, unraveling pretty much everything you put in place. How does that make you feel? Obviously, you want to run for president and stop him.
Well, we had the safest border in history, and he unraveled it. We had fewer people coming in than ever. I had Mexico give us free of charge 28,000 soldiers. We had 28,000 Mexican soldiers for no charge. Now, I said, if you don't do that, I'm going to charge you 25% tariffs, but we don't have to discuss that. But they gave us soldiers. We had very few people. We had record low people coming in. You know that. You report on it all the time. We had the safest border. We had a stay in Mexico policy. How about that one? Yeah. Instead of stay in the United States, they had to stay in Mexico until they had their papers to come out. I had built hundreds of miles of wall, and the wall worked so well, and it was so incredible. Then I was doing an extra 200 miles beyond what I said, and we had the election result. I won't go into it because you're associated with Fox, so we're not allowed to talk about that stuff. But But we had the election result, and what happened, Mark, is that 3 weeks he could have finished it, and he chose not to. And that's what I said. They really want an open border. It's incredible. And they actually, and now we have millions of people flowing in from prisons, from mental institutions, insane asylums. And it's not even believable that somebody could want this. Nobody should want this.
Now, this book about these letters that people wrote to you and you wrote them back and so forth, I mean, we can barely even touch the surface. I mean, there's scores and scores of people in here.
Yeah.
Letters to Trump. What caused you to write this book? What were you thinking?
I was with a group of people, and they saw some of these old letters, like Andrew Lloyd Webber inviting me to a new musical that he was going to open in New York and London. And would you please come? I'm opening up a new musical. It's called The Phantom of the Opera. I was there at opening night with him. And he lived in Trump Tower with Sarah Brightman, and she was starring in it. But I said, yeah, I'll go. And then I watched Phantom of the Opera. I said, this thing is unbelievable. You know, it was great. One of the all-time most successful, I guess. But, you know, so I have the letter, and he's writing about Phantom of the Opera like nobody had ever heard of it. But he said, I'd love to have you come to the new musical. It's called The Phantom of the Opera. And I said, all right. And I have the little note I wrote back to him. Okay, good. Sounds good. And I went to see opening night at Phantom of the Opera, you know, and I thought it was great, but who would have known it was going to be for many, many years at one of the most successful. There's so many. Richard Nixon writing letters that were really fascinating because he was a fascinating person. Some people don't like him much, but he was a fascinating, very smart, tough person. And we just have Oprah writing me incredible letters, Lady Di writing me incredible letters. And so we have many of them in here. I have thousands of letters from people.
Yes.
And it's pretty fascinating to see, actually.
It is. I mean, you go back and forth with Un of North Korea. You've got Putin in there.
Yeah.
You got good guys, too. But I want to tell you, this is a fascinating book, America. You can get it at Amazon.com, 45books.com, and the book is Letters to Trump. And again, it really is insightful about your whole life, really, including your presidency, but long before that, how people thought of you, the kind of life you led, and so forth and so on. It really is a fascinating book. Again, you can get it at Amazon.com or 45books.com. Mr. President, God bless you, and be safe by all means.
I will. Thank you, Mark, and God bless you, and congratulations on Sunday night. That was a great thing. To be number one on Sunday night is a big deal. So congratulations, and I'll see you again.
Well, it helped having you as the guest. All right, take care.